Hello, it's Wednesday, June 7th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO-headline news. Mostly temperate weather these days, at least in the continental United States. That is when it's not being the wild spring weather. And the folks at Earth Sky promise us the moon near the crown of Scorpion for tonight's viewing pleasure. It shines near that head of Scorpion in the constellation Scorpius. These three stars are sometimes called the crown of Scorpion. Although tonight's brilliant waxing gibbous moon will probably wash these stars from view, use the bright star Antares. That will guide you to the crown of the Scorpion when the moon drops out of the evening sky sometime later this month. Scorpius, which now rises in the south-southeastern sky at early evening, is the constellation of the Scorpion. But of course, these three stars have their own individual names. They are Graffias, Dschubba, and Pi Scorpii. Dschubba has an interesting spelling. We hope we're pronouncing it correctly. It is spelled D-S-C-H-U-B-B-A. It's rare when star patterns on our sky's dome have anything to do with real association of stars in space, but these stars are thought to be loosely bound by gravity. All three are located at approximately the same distance, about 500 light-years away, and all are thought to be members of the Scorpius-Centaurus group, which was first recognized by astronomers in the early part of the 20th century. Yes, there will be sky charts available later at ufo-headline-news.com. About 100 stars are known in the Scorpius-Centaurus group, and that includes Antares, the brightest star in Scorpius. The Scorpius-Centaurus stars share a common motion through space. It's very possible they were all born from a single vast cloud of gas and dust. In other words, these stars are much like a family, loosely bound and sharing a common history. Well, speaking of family, there's a family in Brazil that had been looking for their missing son, Bruno Borges. As his unique pursuits and ultimately his disappearance came to light, there was talk that something ill had befallen him, or that perhaps in the end this would turn out to be simply a marketing ploy. Yes, well, worst confirmation. This just in, we grabbed it from the Coast to Coast AM website. Investigation indicates bizarre Brazilian disappearance is a hoax. New developments in the mysterious disappearance of an occult-obsessed student in Brazil suggest that his vanishing may have actually been an elaborate hoax. The story of Bruno Borges spawned worldwide headlines after the young man went missing in late March, and footage revealed that his bedroom had been covered from floor to ceiling with cryptic text. Subsequent news stories detailed how Borges had become obsessed with the occult and had left behind 14 encoded books prior to his disappearance. Alien iconography found amongst his writings had some observers speculating that Borges had made contact with ETs, or perhaps was silenced by the, quote, powers that be, end quotes, due to his research. Enter Marcelo Ferreira. He is an individual who's recovered a pair of contracts which appear to shed damning new light on Borges' disappearance. These contracts, one of which was taken to a notary by Borges on the day of his disappearance last March, details a plan for his books to be published and for a percentage of the proceeds to go to Ferreira and to other individuals. When police searched one of their homes, they found some of Borges' furniture, which they believe had been taken there in order to allow his bedroom to be seen as barren in the footage which emerged after his disappearance. Police subsequently charged Ferreira for lying to authorities, since he claimed to have last seen Borges March 26th, but actually had gone with him to the notary on the next day, the 27th of March. Police are also planning to soon question the friend who'd taken possession of the missing man's furniture. They're hoping to learn more about the circumstances by which this individual obtained these items of furniture. Nonetheless, a Brazilian law enforcement official told the television station Globo that, quote, "It is very conclusive that it was not a disappearance whatsoever. It was, in fact, a conscious plan of remoteness," end quotes. And that the three people named in these contracts may have had a hand in helping Borges vanish. For their part, the Borges family expressed skepticism that the young man's disappearance was actually a marketing scheme. That said, in a statement to the news outlet Veja, his mother also noted the first book from her son will be published soon, which certainly raises suspicions surrounding their role in the case. And of course, despite the discovery of the contracts, which call into question the veracity of Bruno Borges' vanishing to begin with, the young man is still missing, and his whereabouts remain a mystery. But with Brazilian authorities pressuring his friends and the alleged marketing plan apparently unraveling, it would not be too surprising if he suddenly emerges sometime soon, or if the police manage to determine where he's currently located. You can bet that when we find out anything here at UFO Headline News on Inception Radio Network, we will bring it to you. Oh, maybe even a site where we can buy the books. Just kidding. Nobody was kidding about this, but it wasn't what it seemed to be. Let's go to the SomersetLive.com out of the United Kingdom for this headline. It's a follow-up. UFO spotted over Clay Hill near Frome was not aliens. A recent video appeared to show a mysterious UFO circling an area of land nearby, but according to James Wood, who writes this article, it wasn't aliens. It's now been revealed. Located at the edge of Longleat Estate in Warminster, Clay Hill, that's spelled C-L-E-Y Hill, has long been thought of as a hotspot for UFOs. But in this particular case, it's now been revealed this streak of light that was caught on video was in fact created by a stunt plane belonging to a nearby aerobatics group called Aerosparks. The innovative display team performs dazzling acrobatic displays with fireworks attached to the tips of the wings of their planes. And you can imagine in your mind's eye, and if you go to ufo-headline-news.com later, you won't have to use your mind's eye. There's a great shot of an aerospace plane in action. Actually, two planes. I don't know how they do that. Anyway, Aerosparks is based near Longbridge, Deverill, just outside of Warminster, which has its own UFO legends and the famous Warminster Monster. The team regularly practices in the skies around the town, including over Clay Hill. So that begs the question to this broadcaster, at least, why did the population not say, oh, that's just Aerosparks again? Somerset Live contacted the group to confirm it was them and not aliens in the sky over Frome. Guy Westgate, one of the pilots, said, yep, it was us. No mystery, sorry. Here's something from Peterborough, England, while we're in the United Kingdom. It's a MUFON sighting we picked up from ufostalker.com. As is standard, it's been issued a MUFON case number 84178 for tracking and identification purposes. This occurred on the 4th of June, 2017. It got a same-day report. We'll start with the summary. Bright white spherical shape traveling at extreme speed. Sighting specifics give us many categories. The first is viewing distance, and in this case, it's over 1 mile. The next is altitude, in this case over 500 feet, and there wasn't any cloud cover. The sighting duration was 30 seconds. Object features just get that vague report of unknown. The flight path was a straight line path, and this particular object was shaped like a sphere. We're stuck with that meteorological meme of weathering the weather whatever, because there's nothing listed here. But here are the sighting details, first person, raw, and mostly unedited. At around 22:10, I witnessed a large Boeing-style aircraft traveling slowly southeast to northwest. I only noticed it because it looked as though there were interior lights on. However, when I grabbed my binoculars, I could see that this was a white aircraft, obviously reflecting the sun low down on the horizon. It made a noise, and it traveled reasonably slowly. Then later, while having a cigarette with my neighbor, some 10 minutes later, we saw an extremely bright light traveling at some great speed. When I say speed, well, I've seen the SR-71 fly flat out over Mildenhall on its last so-called flight in the early 90s. Well, that wasn't a patch on what we saw that night. This thing really moved. Straight line, no noise. No flashing lights, just a bright sphere. I looked at it through my binoculars, and this thing was brighter than Jupiter. I wasn't able to make out any markings or shapes. I thought at one point it could have been the International Space Station, but I checked that out, and it was over America at the time. This thing was also within our atmosphere, and I might add there were no afterburners either, although I know there are no modern fighters as fast as this thing was. Nice to have that neighbor join in on the sighting. Let's reconfigure our trajectory just a tad and go to Vatinskoy, Saskatchewan, Canada for this next sighting, MUFON case number 84209. The date of this sighting is the 2nd of June this year. It was reported 3 days later. Here's the summary. Bright, star-like light with 4 beams of white light projected out at 45-degree angles, traveling southwest to southeast. Stop, then go, then quickly disappear. The viewing distance offers an unknown viewing distance. The altitude of this thing was over 500 feet, no cloud cover. Sighting duration 3 minutes. Object features frustratingly unknown. The flight path with directional change, path then hovering. And this object had a star-like shape. There isn't any mention of the meteorology, so we're guessing there was nothing impactful to this event. Let's read. Well, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever report something like this, but here it is. On the night of Friday, June 3rd, 2017, I was getting ready for bed. We live on an acreage with no close neighbors. I went to our bedroom with the lights out to close the curtains, and I noticed a bright white light, with 4 spheres of light radiating out from the center at 45-degree angles. All 4 of these lights were exactly the same length and thickness. Our bedroom window points south. The object was moving at a fairly slow speed from southwest to southeast. It was a very clear night with the moon very bright and just above this object in the sky. At first, I wondered if this could be a very bright satellite. I called my wife, who was in the kitchen, to come and see this. We both stood there watching this and could not determine what it was. I said I needed to go outside to see if I could hear anything. So we both ran to our south-facing deck, and the object slowed. It then changed direction and went straight south for 5 to 8 seconds, and then it just disappeared. There was no sound whatsoever. All we can say is that this was weird. We have no explanation as to what it was. I know what it wasn't. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't a plane. We get little to no air traffic over our house, and given the fact that there was no sound emitted from this object, I just can't get it out of my head. I'm a 58-year-old professional, and I have no explanation of what we saw that night. I thought of getting the camera at one point, but I just didn't want to miss any of this. And then before I knew it, it was over. Just thought I would share the experience. Oh, witness, thank you for sharing. Indeed, it's that critical decision that has to be made in a split second. Grab the camera or watch the event. Here's an event that was watched in Naperville, Illinois. It's MUFON case number 84231. The date of this sighting is June 3rd, 2017. Our witness reported on the 6th of June, 2017. And here's the summary. While practicing CE5 protocols taught by C. SETI, I witnessed what looked like a shooting star, but was visible amidst the clouds, and had no downward gravitational arc and no tail. We're going to break away just a second to talk about CE5 protocols, the C. SETI's worldwide CE5 initiative. This is ripped straight from Wikipedia. The Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, more commonly known as C. SETI, is an organization focusing on collecting information about UFOs with a specific interest in extraterrestrial life forms. It was founded as a non-profit by Stephen Greer, who's been the head of the organization since its inception in 1990. The stated aim, quote, establishing peaceful and sustainable relations with extraterrestrial life forms, end quotes. The official statements regarding its intentions also include a new category of extraterrestrial encounters, namely CE-5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, end quotes. This was defined by Stephen Greer as human-initiated contact and or communication with extraterrestrial life. Since its inception, the organization has spent anywhere between $3.5 million and $5 million to achieve its goals. Though most of its claims have been rejected after outside scrutiny, this organization claims to have over 3,000 confirmed reports of UFO sightings by pilots and over 4,000 proofs of what they describe as landing traces. This refers to incidents where UFOs have supposedly left behind trace evidence, such as electromagnetic readings after landing on Earth. The organization utilizes what they call the Rapid Mobilization Investigative Teams, with the aim of arriving at landing sites as quickly as possible, gathering any evidence that might be available. So that's what our witness was doing on June 3rd, 2017. In this case, our reporting witness was out there solo. Let's read some more. I was practicing the CE-5 protocols without a team or a group for about 2.5 hours. I was alternating between meditation, remote viewing, and playing certain tones recorded during a crop circle investigation. After roughly 2 hours and 45 minutes, I packed up my things and I began walking towards the forest parking lot. I decided I should walk backwards, just in case I might happen to miss something in the sky behind me as I was leaving. The sky was very cloudy. I could barely see the moon above, and the clouds blocked out the stars. We also have a lot of light pollution in this area. So, just as I was leaving the parking lot, I witnessed what looked very much like a shooting star. It was visible only for about 1 second. Now, what's compelling is how cloudy and light polluted the sky was. And since I couldn't see any stars, I found it very bizarre that I should see a shooting star that was not only visible below the cloud line, but also this thing traveled on a flat horizontal trajectory at an altitude below the cloud line. I believe this would defy the laws of physics for a meteorite or space debris to be at such a low altitude and traveling horizontally. There was no downward arc heading towards the Earth. I also find the timing of the event highly suspicious as well. I set out that night with the intent of peacefully vectoring in any extraterrestrial vehicles willing to appear to us and demonstrate their beauty and peacefulness. I had some rather interesting visuals while meditating, by the way, and remote viewing. The chances of this object having been an unintelligent object are extremely slim. The chances of just happening to see an extremely rare shooting star somehow visible among the clouds and traveling on an extremely impossible trajectory. Well, I've seen plenty of shooting stars in my life, but not a single one which I can recall in Naperville, Illinois, even on the clearest of nights. Really, the only resemblance this thing had to a shooting star was the speed with which it was moving. In fact, it might have been moving faster than most shooting stars. It was also unlike the characteristics of any shooting star in that it did not appear to diminish and disintegrate. It popped out of view with the exact same brightness it had when it appeared. And again, it appeared amid a completely cloudy sky. I truly wish I'd been able to record this on video, or at the very least to have a secondary witness. Keep in mind, I take this subject extremely seriously, and I do my best to debunk any potential sightings I might witness, because if I'm going to see one, I want to be certain that I saw what I think I saw. I wouldn't be posting this sighting were I not so sure this was something otherworldly. I've waited several days in the time since I witnessed it. I've slept on it, and I've determined after much consideration, research, and healthy skepticism that it was not some extremely coincidental freak of nature shooting star, somehow defying the law of physics. To anyone who reads this, believe in the truth. They are out there. They are visiting. And based on their lack of aggression, they are more than likely peaceful, or at least neutral observers of our civilization. If you're like myself and would absolutely love to have a sighting, check out CSETI Serious Disclosure and their CE5 protocols. You don't have to spend any money in order to learn how to initiate contact. It just takes time and practice and meditation and a very open mind. Anyone can have these experiences, and for anyone reading, or in this case hearing this, thank you for taking me seriously. Keep an open mind and keep your eyes to the skies. Yikes, fantastic report. We couldn't have said that last bit better ourselves. Here's an interesting sighting out of San Luis, Colorado, spelled L-U-I-S. Coincidentally, or not, you decide, gentle listeners, we covered an article coming from San Luis, Argentina, a hot spot in South America for UFO sightings. Tremendous percentage of the populace, and they're quite comfortable with saying it was something other, something not from here. Well, let's go to San Luis, Colorado here. Perhaps the aliens are looking for the right San Luis. This is MUFON case number 84180. It took place on the 27th of May this year. It was reported June 4th. Here's the summary. Put GoPro to record sky at cabin around 2 a.m. Sighting specifics. Well, a lot of unknowns. The viewing distance is unknown. The altitude likewise, and the object features also reported as unknown. The flight path was a path with directional change, and this object had a triangular shape. Most triangles tend to do that. The maximum temperature here in San Luis, Colorado, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius, dropping down to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees Celsius. All those visibility factors, maximum, mean, and minimum, were the same, 10 miles, 16 kilometers. And it was raining. Here's the report. I have heard many times that the San Luis Valley in Colorado is a hot spot for UFO activity, so I started putting out cameras to observe the sky above our cabin in the San Luis Valley. After I began reviewing the footage, I observed many meteors and satellites, but then I saw something in the corner of my footage, a light, a green light that appeared in the sky multiple times. After the first orb appeared, there was a second one that came into view. This thing had a triangular shape. Then both orbs moved in multiple directions within seconds and then left the screen. Yep, just gone. The witness wants to send video, had a little difficulty with it apparently, but was able to post it on YouTube. There's a link that you can check out later, gentle listeners, at ufo-headline-news.com. Lots of interesting stuff to be found there. Oh, what we're finding here is all the clocks, all the time zones. We've got to run because... That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Follow today's stories at ufo-headline-news.com. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.